औज़ुबिल्लाहिमिनश्शैतानिर्रजीम बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। अस्सलाम वालेकुम स्टूडेंट्स, आज मैं आपके साथ शेयर करने लगी हूँ ENG511 के कुछ बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट MCQs। इसमें जो क्विज़ 3 एंड क्विज़ 4 में मोस्ट रिपीटेड और मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट MCQs थे वो वाले इंक्लूड है। तो आपने ये फ़ाइल प्रिपेयर करनी है, इंशाल्लाह आपका जो ऑब्जेक्टिव पेपर है वो बहुत अच्छा हो जाएगा। इसके अलावा भी आप हैंडआउट्स को रीड लाजमी कीजिएगा, क्योंकि जो चैप्टर क्विजेज़ में इंक्लूड नहीं होते हैं उनमें से भी MCQs आते होते हैं। और अगर आपने सब्जेक्टिव पेपर की तैयारी करनी है तो मेरे चैनल पे 511 के जो शॉर्ट लेक्चर्स हैं वो मौजूद हैं, उनका जो लिंक है वो आपको डिस्क्रिप्शन में मिल जाएगा, आप जाके वो भी वॉच करें, इंशाल्लाह आपका पेपर बहुत अच्छा हो जाएगा। तो इससे पहले एक रिक्वेस्ट है, अगर आपने मेरे चैनल को सब्सक्राइब नहीं किया तो काइंडली सब्सक्राइब कर दें। वीडियो शुरू करते हैं जी। हमारे पास फर्स्ट MCQs है। द नोशन दैट अ लैंग्वेज डिटरमिन सर्टन नॉन लिंग्विस्टिक कॉग्निटिव प्रोसेसेस इज कॉल्ड linguistic relativity, competence, performance, linguistic determinism. Option D is correct, linguistic determinism. The notion that, ये फिर वही रिपीट हो रहा है तो इसका आंसर है linguistic determinism. With regard to our evolutionary ancestors, the dash is that language evolved as a bonding devices. Cognition, social cognition hypothesis, LED hypothesis, behaviorism. Option B is correct, social cognition hypothesis. Speech is essential for sign, text, thoughts, mind. Thoughts. Option C is correct. The language of person effect is dash and perspective on the world. Thoughts, physically, appearance, body. So option A is correct, thoughts. Lack of vocabulary does not indicate lack of lexicon, words, concept, lexis. Option C is correct, concepts. Sapir and Wolf state that language and thoughts are two dash related terms, closely, distinct, far-fetched, neutrally, closely. In evolutionary terms, speech may be an example of maturity, equality, eternity, expectation. Option D is correct, expectation. Teaching language to the other primates divide into dash groups. 4, 2, 5, 3. Option D is correct, 3. In evolutionary terms, speech may be an example of expectation. ये फिर repeat हुआ है. The learning of dash will determine our influence, the way we understand our culture and the world. Article, textbook, language research. Option C is correct, language. The learning of dash will determine, तो ये फिर वही है language. Sapir and Wolf state that language and thoughts are two dash related terms, interrelated या closely related. Option C is correct. The notion that a language determines certain non-linguistic cognitive processes is called linguistic determinism. Compared to English, dash uses fewer nouns and permits noun ellipses. Spanish, French, Korean, Dutch, Korean. Evolution of language is a dash change in human language over time. Gradual, meteoric, rapid, serial. Option A is correct, gradual. The language of a person effect is dash and perspective on the world, body, appearance, physicality, या thoughts. Option D is correct, thought. Animal communication system are both interesting and impressive, but very extended, elaborated, limited, deep. Option C is correct, limited. Linguistic determinism and relativity were valid concepts. They can be broadly organized into lexical and dash. Example: grammatical, contextual, pragmatic, semantic. Grammatic. At the dash level, much work has been done on the words for color. Semantic, syntactic, lexical, pragmatic. Lexical. The language of a person effect is dash and perspective of the world. Thoughts, physicality, body, appearance. Option A is correct, thoughts. In the dash system of naming numbers is relatively complex. French, English, Spanish, Dutch. Option B is correct, English. In evolutionary terms, speech may be an example of maturity, equality, eternity, expectation. Option D is correct, expectation. Darwinian theory is based on the concept of superiority, proximity, inferiority, continuity. Option D is correct, continuity. Compared to English, dash uses fewer nouns and permits noun ellipses. Spanish, French, Dutch, Korean. Option D is correct, Korean. Animal communication systems are both interesting and impressive, but very limited. With regard to our evolutionary ancestors, the dash is language evolved as a bonding device. LED hypothesis, behaviorism, cognition, social cognition hypothesis. Option D is correct. In evolutionary terms, speech may be an example of maturity, expectation, eternity, equality. Option B is correct, expectation. The notion that language determines certain non-linguistic cognitive processes is called linguistic determinism. Option C is correct. Deaf persons without language can use words, speak words, think words, Utter few words, the option C is correct. Think. Evolution of language is the dash change in human language over time, gradual. In evolutionary terms, speech may be an example of exportation. Teaching language to the other primates divided into dash groups. 3. The notion that language shape thought pattern is commonly referred to as dash hypothesis. Worf. The Korean learner is contrast to dash distinguishes between tight and loose containment. English. In evolutionary terms, speech may be an example of exportation. Sapir and Worf state that language and thoughts are two dash related terms closely. The result of dash term studies suggests that the presence of the brief verbal expression is language, certain cognitive processes. Sign, color, टाइटल वर्जन, यहाँ पे ये वाला थोड़ा सा ब्लर है तो इसका करेक्ट आंसर है कलर. Sapir-Whorf hypothesis has strong as well as dash points, weak. The Korean learner, in contrast to dash, distinguishes between tight and loose containment. English. In English, there is a distinction between what Whorf called individual noun and dash noun, mass noun. हमारे पास क्विज 4 के MCQs. Dash patients have a selective deficit in assessing close class words. Selective disorder, aphasia, agrammatic. तो agrammatic option D is correct. The inability to understand speech or to produce fluent and coherent speech is called impairment, amnesia, anaphora, aphasia. Option D is correct, aphasia. Children focus on dash relation between objects when categorizing. Thematic, structural, contextual, grammatical. Option A is correct, thematic. Mutual exclusivity might influence word generalization, grammar, none of the given option, meaning. Option A is correct, word generalization. A dash is a psychological construct which gathers together the perception and associated action. Sensory-motor schema. Option A is correct. Pure alexia refers to the inability to listen, write, speak, read. Option D is correct, read. The inability to understand speech or to produce fluent and coherent speech is called aphasia. Parameter is a framework within generative linguistics. There are two main functions that the Ranki's-Jashvin model explores: comprehensive and responding to spoken languages. Ranki's aphasia is a dash deficit, comprehension. Unlike the dash, creoles resemble the structural roles of other languages, pidgins. A dash is a psychological construct which gathers together the perception and associated action, sensory-motor schema. Class size is a vital component in educational planning. Pure alexia refer to the inability to read. SLI is the abbreviation of specific language impairment. There are two main functions that the Ranki's-Jashvin model explore: comprehension and responding to the spoken language. Children preferred ways of taking or operating on information are called operating principle. In the moderate system style of management, the behavior patterns are determined by the teacher. The negative evidence is the evidence that particular attendance is ungrammatical. What is the primary focus of professional development program for teacher? Both academic and behavioral aspect. The inability to understand speech or to produce fluent and coherent speech is called aphasia. Who among the following outlines the theory of discourse schemata? Van Dijk. Option D is correct. Ranki's aphasia was discovered by Carl Ranke. Option A is correct. यहाँ इन्होंने जस्ट फर्स्ट नेम चेंज किया हुआ है, जोहन रैंकी, साउ रैंकी, किम रैंकी, तो आपने याद रखना है कार्ल रैंकल. A. The mental action or process of acquiring knowledge and understanding through the thought and experiences is called cognition. Parameter is a framework within generative linguistics. Children preferred ways of taking in or operating information are called operational principle. Which of the following syllabus is organized around the content rather than around the linguistics content based? The inability to understand speech or to produce fluent and coherent speech is called aphasia. SLI is the abbreviation of specific language impairment. Mutual exclusivity might influence word generalization. Dash is a very strict word order language, English. Ranke's aphasia was discovered by Carl Ranke. Ranke's aphasia was discovered by, ये वही repeat हो रहा है, Carl Ranke. Pure alexia refer to the inability to read. Children focus on dash relation between the objects when categorizing thematic. A dash is a psychological construct with gathered together perception and associated action, sensory motor schema. How innate process operate in the child's language has been called the dash as proposed by Bykerton. तो Bykerton का जो concept था उसने language by program hypothesis का concept दिया था. Option A is correct. Negative evidence is the evidence that particular attendance is ungrammatical. The dash patients have a selective deficit in assessing closed class words. Agrammatic. Compared to English, dash uses fewer nouns and permits noun ellipses. Korean. Last MCQ है जी हमारे पास. Dash is a very strict word order language. English.